Check 1 2. Yeah, we should be right.
Haley. 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 sure. Not the hospital, just the health. Okay, I think people are gathering, but we have kind of a short time frame, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you're here for the Workforce AI Economy panel, come on in and grab a seat, come up front. We don't all have to be Catholics sitting in the back. So my name is Rich DeClaudio. I'm the CEO of the Energy Innovation Center Institute here in Pittsburgh. We're a rather large not-for-profit workforce development organization. My background is private equity and energy, and I'm also the CEO of Bedford Management Partners, which builds on-site power for data centers, military installations, Intel installations, and other critical infrastructure. I'm really excited about this panel. I'm really honored to be on stage with these four professionals. And we're going to do a quick round of introductions. I'm going to start by just asking Diane Holder if she can talk a minute about her background, and then just we'll hand it off down the line.
Hi, I've been in healthcare for feels like my whole life. I had a background in running hospitals. Then I went over for about 20 years to develop and run all the UPMC health plan insurance companies. And I'm now serving as an advisor to various companies in the last few months. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Cherry, CEO of Partner for Work. Partner for Work is the workforce development board for Allegheny County in the city of Pittsburgh.
That's great. Good afternoon, and thank you, Rich and AI Horizons, for having us here today. I'm Shane Young, CFO of Coterra Energy. We're a diversified oil and gas company. About half our business is oil in West Texas and New Mexico, and about half is dry gas in Northeast Pennsylvania, and we have a big presence here in Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon, everybody. Luke Ravenstall. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Peoples Gas. I'm here today pinch hitting for our President, Mike Hewer, who sends his regrets. He was unable to make it. We're a local natural gas distribution company here in southwestern Pennsylvania. Operate 15,000 miles of pipeline, serve over 700,000 customers, 140-year-old company. We employ 1,400 employees here in the region, and a proud member of the AI Strike Task Force that we joined this year. We've been working with Rich and his organization now for, a handful of years or so, and Mike and our company is also very involved in Pittsburgh work. So very much invested in the workforce here in southwestern Pennsylvania and the future of the AI economy. So great to be here.
Great, thank you. So we've had a chance, this group represents employers, it represents the government through Partners for Work, it represents the energy industry, the healthcare industry. We really truly could have 50 people on this panel if we wanted to have people representing who all is going to be impacted by this really critical topic. And so, you know, the headwaters of AI is power, and the headwaters of power is energy. And really, I think upstream from that, if you can be upstream from the headwaters, is human capital and workforce. And so we're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of what impact AI is going to have on the workforce across, both in the near term and possibly the longer term. Although I think there's going to be an event horizon that might make it hard for us to predict beyond 5 or 10 years out. But we're talking about like the next 5 years. Where are the changes going to be? Where are the displacements going to be? Where are the new jobs going to be? How are we going to get men and women to those jobs? Whether they be new entrants into the workforce or whether they be current incumbent workers or recently displaced workers. If anyone's paying any attention to this, on the one hand, you have people on podcasts every day that are pretty informed, saying in 5 years there won't be any employment. Kind of the Terminator example. you have a lot of other people, in fact, people on stage earlier today, down in the main stage, saying, no, this is really going to be mostly additive, not very disruptive. And there will be some displacement, but those will be easily solved. That's what we've been grappling with as a panel, individually in our careers, as employers and people training and impacting this, but also as a group meeting and talking about this individually and together. And so at a high level, I'd like to just kind of have this be as conversational as possible in that context. Not everyone up here agrees with the impact it's going to have, but everyone agrees it'll have an impact. I'd like to just start, maybe we could start with you, Shane, because I think you're responsible for some fairly interesting things in your energy company. What do you see coming down the road? How are you thinking about it in terms of not only how do you make your current workforce more productive, but what's it going to do to the men and women that ultimately lose their job because of AI platforms? How do you think about it? You know, throw in, just give us your thinking.
Yeah, look, it's a great place to jump in. And maybe one thing I'll just start with is Coterra is a very technically driven company. Our CEO is a geoscientist. Everything's driven by data and by information. And so when we started our AI journey, we really started in the subsurface. That was the first place we wanted to go. Where can we have a major impact in making the business better and building a great business? And so we started there. And I'll tell you, it started organically in our shop. We had a couple of engineers that, unbeknownst to each other, were curious about machine learning and random forest models and thought it could help us make better predictions in terms of where to land our wells, how to space them, how to design our completions. And that really bubbled itself up to trying to use a third-party service to bring that group together, and we were very dissatisfied with that part of the process. And so we let that go, and we converted some of our engineers into data scientists and hired additional data scientists to really drive this for us. So fast forward to today, our machine learning efforts have been incredibly helpful for our company. We've increased productivity per foot, or how much we produce natural gas and oil per foot, by 20% over the last 3 or 4 years, just through utilizing machine learning technology and AI technology. And I'll say, we talk to the group, and we do it a little differently than some of our peers, where AI is not an ivory tower within Coterra. It is marbled into everything that the engineers do and every decision that's made in terms of a drilling decision that takes place. And what we've told the team is that this is not a product that we're pushing on you or selling to. It is a service, and it's your job to utilize it to do your job better. And we tell that engineering group not to be afraid, per se, that AI is going to take your job and that an engineer, you're going to be out of work and we're going to replace it with AI. But it's the engineer that embraces AI and utilizes it to do their job better. That's the person you need to worry about replacing you. So we've really encouraged people, and the organization has done a wonderful job of embracing the technology as an enabler of doing their job better, as opposed to having them fear that they're going to be chased out of their job over the next year or two by the technology.
That's helpful. Great. Now, one follow-up question. I know your industry, you could take more leases, drill more. He can make your money go further. So it's likely to have less of an impact on some of your workforce, but there's still accounting, there's still logistics, there's still a lot of kind of layers of lower white collar jobs and middle white collar jobs. Do you see it impacting those people, ultimately some of those jobs being lost?
Well, I do, and I will tell you, again, we started with the place that we thought would have the biggest multiple impact on our values. That's subsurface, and only now are we really starting to sort of push it out, AI products, into other parts. So whether it's legal, HR, accounting, all these things that you talk about. But as we look at it, I will tell you so far, and I'll use payables as an example of a place where we've kind of pushed it out and are starting to see impacts. It's incumbent upon us as a team to serve our stakeholders and get more efficient and lower costs, et cetera. But it's interesting, as our payables group maybe gets a little bit smaller and does more with fewer people, every time somebody comes to me and says, you know what, we probably don't need that job, but you know what, I need another job over here. And it's been fascinating to me. And so far, that's just sort of the way that it's worked, that we've added people in different parts of the organization as we've gotten tighter in the payables part of our business.
That's an excellent data point. Okay, Diane, I'd like to ask you, I sat alongside of you for many years as you were CEO and leader, really founder and leader of UPMC Health. You founded an AI subcommittee that I was part of. We met, a couple hours every other month for years. I know that you're pretty deep into this. Talk a little bit about your practical experience, where you see this heading, what kind of impact, the good and the bad, and how we can kind of shape that.
Sure. Well, healthcare, I think, and the healthcare industry writ large, whether you're talking about pharmaceutical industry, healthcare delivery, health insurance coverage, will be enormously impacted in many, many ways across the board with various kinds of AI. The last many years that we've been driving change, you've seen it on the clinical delivery side, because we know that there's lots of problems in healthcare, right? I mean, you list them. You access, how many times do people have trouble getting a doctor's appointment? How complex is it? How many different kinds of services do people have to put together, especially if they have chronic disease? We also know that its quality is not always optimal. The United States is not a star in terms of European nation comparisons, with a lot of things related to longevity and quality of life years, infant mortality. So we have a lot of opportunity to solve problems. And those are the kinds of problems that I think we can look for AI solutions, AI augmented solutions, et cetera. I think on the actual delivery side, if you divide up healthcare into sort of the processes of healthcare, the administrative infrastructure, I certainly think we're going to get economies of scale attached to that. Coding, things like claims, look on the insurance side, all the different, fraud detection. I mean, AI will be able to and has been bringing us a huge improvement. Our call centers, millions of calls a year coming in, and we put chat bots in a long time ago on the insurance side, and our efficiency went up 50%. But what we were able to do with the money, quite honestly, because we still ran very lean, as a board member, he noticed, we really were able to reinvest in data science differently. We were able to reinvest in people, high touch, ability for people to actually help people navigate the system. And so when I look at the future and I look at things that I think we're thinking about, and everybody in healthcare industry is thinking about, it's, how far will robotics go? Right now, if you look at robotics, surgery's better, it's better outcomes with robotics. You look at things like drug development, huge amount of opportunity, orphan drugs that just get abandoned, so many people who have rare diseases that just can't get the help and service they need. What can we do? Sometimes just reusing the same medications, but they can be applied differently. The whole digital twin opportunity. I was at the Vision Center not long ago doing a behind-the-scenes thing with some people, and we were looking at a young surgeon who was going to do an eye operation in a couple of days. She was practicing, right? She was doing all the simulations, and the data was coming in, throwing different problems, creating all sorts of digital capabilities. So I think that the job markets will be differentially affected. Process, standardization, things that are kind of able to be standardized. I do believe you're going to see an efficiency, and I do think there will be a percentage of job loss. For nurses, if you look at the predictions from the Bureau of Labor Statistics right now, expecting increases in the need in healthcare personnel. Why? We're an aging society, and we are basically a society that chronic disease is growing. So I think it's going to be really important to think ahead a lot so you're not suddenly disadvantaging huge numbers of people. And some of the literature will tell you that women are at higher risk because they're in more of those jobs. So what can we do? Do I have time for my creative one little story?
Yeah, please do. I was going to come back to that,
One
but go
little
ahead.
story, okay, that I read. Have you read the IKEA use case, anybody? So IKEA apparently, big call center, like over 8,000 people in their call center. And they put in a whole new system where they didn't need their call center people. And what they did is they anticipated that, but they also anticipated that there was a growth opportunity in their business to be able to do design work. And the people who could best help people figure out how do you put furniture together in rooms and what could you do differently was a thing that IKEA hadn't really done before. They took all of those people, they upskilled and retrained those people, and they basically put them into new work at a higher value for the company, and their top line revenue went up $1 billion that year. So as you look at strategic thinking, and I think that's where this is going to come down to, strategically, our leaders of companies, our operational leadership, are they thinking ahead to what actually should we be doing? Because there's a lot of ethics involved in this as well. So how are we making good, practical, good fiscal responsible decisions, but good ethical decisions?
Yeah, I think that's an incredible example. I hope to come back to it. I'm going to just, in the interest of time, jump to you, Rob. You're at the edge, right? You work with people that do end up being displaced, whether just because they lost their job or a company's downsizing, and probably more and more in the future because of AI displacement. Rob and I had the privilege of leading a plenary session this morning on this topic, and it was really a lively discussion. So I'd love to hear how you're thinking about it as the head of the local WIB, one of the more innovative ones in the country. And you guys are very forward thinkers. So how do you see the problem shaping up in Pittsburgh? How do you see the solution sets to allow displaced workers to find places to land quickly?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we look at it from all different aspects. When you talk about AI, we talk to a lot of businesses and they talk about the efficiencies that it can build within their organization. It's actually a good thing. It makes them more profitable and productive during a time where we don't have enough workers right now. And as Diane said, inevitably, there will be people displaced because of AI. And I think a lot of it is how we think about it. And when a lot of people think about AI and displacement, they think about a switch. I look at it as more of a dimmer. And so most technical advances that we have had that have impacted workforce development have worked more like a dimmer and not like a switch. And so I think that these will be impacts that will happen over time. Also during the time where we just don't have enough workers also. And so what you may see more of more than rather a large displacement is over the next 5 to 10 years, a real rebalancing of the workforce development system, because companies will have to find ways to build efficiencies and automation where we don't have enough people in the workforce to participate in the workforce. That will create new jobs. It will create new skill sets that will be needed. And I think the secret sauce in all of that is for the people who will be displaced, like IKEA, what opportunities will businesses see in their own growth strategy to create the next job for that person? And then what are the transferable skills that those folks have that can go into other industries, because there will be openings there too.
That's great. I can tell that Shane has a comment on that, but I do want to get to Luke. I know a little bit about your business at Peoples because we partner with them. We do quite a few things with them. I know that AI is starting to be deployed in a couple different areas. I also think that some of the last jobs, we talked about this, Rob and I talk about this a lot, some of the last jobs to be impacted in a negative way are the ones that involve people driving around in trucks or turning wrenches or welders, which is a majority, but not all of your workforce, because you have call centers and billing. And so could you talk a little bit about how Peoples thinks about it, Essential Utilities, your parent company thinks about it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rich. By nature, utilities aren't necessarily known as early adopters of cutting edge technology, right? So But that being said, technology is embedded in everything we do at Peoples. You're right, Rich. About 60% of those 1,400 employees that I talked about earlier are in the field, right? So they're the men and women that are driving the trucks and working in the operations, fixing the leaks and installing the pipeline and construction. Very forward-thinking company. I think I'd describe it sort of the opposite evolution in our company, Shane, that you did. From an AI perspective, more focused on the office side of things first than in the field. That said, we really see a great opportunity in the field from a safety and training and compliance perspective. Although not quite AI in the truest sense, using virtual reality to train our employees, to get them familiar with the operations. Our company, probably similar to many of yours, is experiencing, sort of the retirement of the baby boomers, right? So that institutional knowledge, and again, historically in utilities, folks that have worked in the industry for 30 or 40 years, are walking out the door, and we have folks walking in the door that are fresh and new and new to the industry, right? And so how do we use AI as a training mechanism, right? So that capture that institutional knowledge that's leaving, but also have a way to sort of transfer that knowledge to those that are coming in. So I think you're right, Rich, sort of to close the loop here. Our folks in the field might be as insulated as one can be, if that's the right way to sort of think about it, from the negative effects of AI, if you will. But that being said, it also creates a tremendous opportunity for us to grow and evolve and use data to be more efficient as a company.
Great. Shane, I think you had a comment. Did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think I would just, listening to some of the panelists here, I mean, so much of this resonates with me. And in our industry, I read a stat the other day that as an industry, there's roughly 400,000 people that are at or near retirement age. That's about a quarter of our workforce. And the question, how are we going to solve that? And I think almost by necessity, we're going to need AI and automation and some things like that to help. As we talked about this panel, we talked about uncertainties. And in our business, we've got about 1,000 employees. About 250 of them are in our corporate headquarters. And so we've talked about some of the things that they're doing with AI. But the rest are either in the regional offices or out in the field. And you think about some of these manual tasks. We have a role called a pumper that'll drive around and go to each well site and make sure the valves, and you sort of ask yourselves, well, look, you're always going to need somebody to go look at these valves. That's sort of a safe, protected job. And I was thinking back, some of our new energy ventures guys went recently to a distribution warehouse right outside of Houston. This thing was bigger than a football field. And they went there to look at a new technology they were using, and they went in sort of expecting to see dozens and dozens of people and a lot of noise and activity, and it was almost dead silent. And robotics were going around scanning barcodes, taking things off shelf, putting on things, and in some ways, I think they were like, this is really amazing. This is kind of George Jetson, for those of you that are old enough to remember the Jetsons, in terms of what's going on. But in other ways, it's sort of sobering in terms of maybe what some of this AI in association with robotics, the type of impact it can have on a workforce.
The other thing that I think you're getting at is that although some jobs may be replaced by necessity in some ways because of the workforce requirements and needs, where are we getting some of these folks, but also adding value to jobs. There are certain jobs that are just sort of deadening, and they're not the jobs that most people like. And so consequently, I think if we can add value to the work that people do and add value. I'm thinking about, you look at the stats on physicians right now, 50% of them are endorsing signs of burnout. Nurses, right? And they don't find the burnout in the connection with the human. What they find is the burnout where they have to have pajama time, which is in medicine is the time you go home, put on your pajamas, and do all your paperwork, which is now the electronic medical record, and trying to catch up on all the notes and the things because there's no way in the course of the day to get that stuff done. And so I think what people feel is this burden from rote work that's not very, enlivening. And I think that this, like, for example, one of the talks tomorrow will be, on ambient listening. And when Chev started that years ago, I remember talking to him very early on about what he was going to do. And yesterday, coincidentally, I had my primary care annual visit, and the physician says, "Do you mind if I record our conversation? It'll be erased when it's done." And I said, "So how's it working? You know, I mean, are you liking it? Is it working?" And she said, "Well, you know, it's a lot better. It's learning. You know, it's figuring out how I speak and what notes need to come together, and I don't have to cut and paste stuff anymore." And you know, and I have to say that she spent more time looking at me than at the computer, which historically I think that's what doctors have been forced into. You know, so the value add to the doctor-patient relationship is important. Getting rid of burdensome work that's not necessarily done best by them. And why, I mean, the embracing of this seems perfectly logical to me. So I believe reskilling is going to be critical, but I think it's going to take strategy, and I think it's going to take us being careful about being right, because, you know, we making errors already happens now. We don't want more errors just done faster. So there's a lot of opportunity, but I think there's value add across the board in these things.
Okay, we have just a couple minutes left. I asked Joanna if we could have 2 hours, because literally I think we're just getting started, and we're kind of talking around the issues. I think everyone agrees there's going to be displacement, there's going to be additive, and there's going to be destruction. And there's arguments on either end of those ranges of additive and destructive, and there's layers of jobs. If you've got a job that's interacting and empathy, that requires empathy, you're probably last to be impacted. If you're driving around in a white truck, you're last to be impacted. If you have a unique skill set and you're a senior, kind of innovator or critical thinker, you're probably not going to be impacted. Most people aren't all those things. So a lightning round, just in our last few minutes, provocative. There is going to be, I believe, I'm an optimistic guy, but I believe there's going to be material displacement of people who do jobs on computers that frankly, the computers increasingly in the next 24, 36 months will be doing instead of them. Some number of them, 5, 10, 15%, will manage that process, but a lot won't. In our panel this morning, we had a woman that had to write a process for her company that led to 20 out of 25 people, 75, 80% of the workforce being laid off in a couple months. Just gone, the jobs are gone. We think that's going to get repeated. So, optimistic, we know we're optimistic, but we can't have our head in the sand about the problem part of this. Real people need to make their mortgage payments and feed their kids. The displaced people, what are they going to do next? How are we going to get them trained? How are we going to do it in time? So just kind of, throw out your thoughts. No one has the real answer, so, whatever you say can't be wrong. It's just going to add to the solution. Sure, go ahead, Shane.
I'm happy to kick it off here, but look, I think it's incumbent upon the companies, but it also it's a bigger community question. And frankly, I think we can do more as a community than any individual company can do. And the needs are going to be so broad that you need it. It just so happens in Houston, we've got a group called Greater Houston Partnership that does a lot. There's probably a similar group in Pittsburgh that does a lot. And they've got programs designed around upskilling and reskilling workforces. And so companies like ours at Coterra participate in Greater Houston Partnership and participate in that vertical piece of it to help create venues that help to retrain and reposition people for more opportunities in the future that do get displaced.
Great, Luke, that's good. Luke?
Yeah, tough one. Obviously, we're all struggling with it, but I think one of the benefits of our company as utility is, through our long-term infrastructure investment program, we know where our work's going to be for at least the next decade. We're going to be replacing 3,000 miles of pipe here in the region. So, from a stability standpoint, at least for those 60% that I mentioned in the field, we feel comfortable that this transition, away from employee to AI, may not hit us as quickly as others. The office piece is really, really difficult to pinpoint, right? As we continue to see it integrate more and more into what we do. Again, utilities are typically on the tail end of the curve, maybe right above government, for those in the audience that are in government. But Certainly, grateful to work for a company that's embracing, AI and the technological advances. And I think our guess is as good as any in the room, right? You could ask that same question to folks in here, and you'd get 100 different answers. So.
Great. I'm gonna let Rob wrap up. So if you don't mind.
I think we should look at this from the systemic perspective of employment writ large. We should try to keep the economic development going in Pittsburgh. We should be a destination city. If you want a great job, come to Pittsburgh and build out the AI corridor and do those pieces. Because the more value add work we have here, the more we will have opportunity for everybody.
And thank you. And Rob, I loved your rebalance, so make sure but Rob probably forgot more about this topic than any of us ever know, but, and we've had some lively discussions because we don't always agree, but I'd love for the audience to hear your thinking.
Yeah, I mean, your question was, what are we going to do about the AI displacement? And my answer is the same thing we do about all displacement. Displacement is something that we see in the economy all the time. We saw large displacements within the last year. And the benefit of those displacements during this economy is that there was another job out there, that there were a lot of job opportunities available. And so there'll always be some form of displacement. What scares me more is our displacement in a bad economy or an economy that's not growing. And so I tend to think about that more than, displacement just because of, technology or AI. I think there has to be systems in place that understand in your particular region where growing opportunities are, what skills and abilities do people need to transfer into those roles, and to help people guide into those. Like that Houston partnership, I'm familiar with them. They do a great job of that. We have great programs here that do that, and so we have to grow those opportunities if we see something large scale happen like that.
Right, I guess I think those are incredible answers. I'm going to add one thing. We didn't really talk about it, but there is a need to move at a fast pace because this stuff's coming fast and it's not going to slow down. And people who own companies won't always be magnanimous like IKEA was. I know plenty of CEOs that if they can cut their costs 20%, they're just doing it. And if enough CEOs have the opportunity, we're going to have a little bit of a larger displacement than maybe typical. And it's not just going to be one industry or one city. It's going to be multiple industries, job types across industries, and multiple cities. But the opportunities for growth are significant. They're not clear. It's not necessarily clearly understood what those jobs are going to be, but they are coming. And I think it's incumbent on us to be creating systems. I'd like to do things privately, but I think the government has a role to play, certainly formal education. How fast can we get parents and students in high school thinking about their careers now and learning the skills they need to understand that whatever they're doing, it's going to rapidly change every couple of years, and they got to figure out a way to understand that, to be constant learners and be always ahead of the curve. We cannot afford to have 10 or 15 or 20% of our workforce in this nation unemployed. We don't want it. And I think that's a possibility with the rapid onset of AI. I love the optimism of our group, and I think there will be ways to solve it, but not if we just leave it alone. And so we're really kind of keen. Come talk to any one of us if you've got thoughts, ideas, interests. If you think there's a way to solve this problem, I'm all over the nation asking people, where are the new jobs? What are the new jobs AI is creating? We get some good answers and we get some blank stares. And I think there's still a lot for us to figure out. So let me thank Luke, Shane, Rob, and Diana. They're an incredible panel. What they know about this topic is each one of them could talk for 2 hours. I hope this has been helpful for the audience. It was more of a framing of the topic than a solution, but I think solutions are coming. So thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to kick off this session with our esteemed panel. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is an exciting afternoon. My name is Randy Velakovich. I'm with Buchanan, Ingersoll & Rooney. I chair the government affairs practice. And in addition to my work with the law firm, I'm one of the founding members of the AI Strike Team, the organization that is putting on this conference today. So we're very excited to be gathered here with AI researchers, innovators, adopters, investors, and of course, those that are engaged in the public policy debate, our public officials. I think you can get a sense of the energy in the room. There's lots of people from a very diverse set of industries that all have one single goal, the goal of making Western Pennsylvania the AI universe in the world. And when that happens, remarkable things will happen for our region and for our economy. So before we begin with our panel, I want to just set the stage for a moment and talk about why Pittsburgh and why now. There's a good reason that so many people are talking about Pittsburgh. And I just want to go over a few of them because they will be some themes that we'll talk about in a moment. But for starters, we have the best and brightest minds in the world in this region, largely because of our academic institutions. Carnegie Mellon, the University of Pittsburgh, my alma mater, Duquesne University. They're training the best and the brightest. Got a shout out for Robert Morris here. But they're using AI, creating AI for breakthroughs in healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, and it's only getting started. We also have breakthroughs in the banking industry. Bank of New York Mellon, which has a really significant presence in this market, is leading edge in the banking industry. That is a bank that was founded by Alexander Hamilton, which I think is really cool. And there was an announcement this morning that will be talked about on stage with the governor in a little bit, so I will not steal that thunder. But there are a lot of really good incubation of AI, exercises in AI happening in this region. Second thing is we have the natural resources, the infrastructure, and strategic sites. It's no secret that data centers are needed to support the growing compute needs of the AI sector, and it requires a massive amount of energy. Few places in the world have richer feedstock, grid capacity, transmission lines, and those capabilities, but also the strategic sites that we have. And I know that we have friends in the labor community who are here. We have county commissioners that are here, and there's lots of conversations about those things that we bring to bear. And then finally, we have the most capable, skilled labor force in the world that supports the building of these infrastructure assets, whether they be data centers, energy pipelines, et cetera. So the Commonwealth's skilled labor, while they're going to build it, we also have the brains to occupy it once built. Now, transitioning to our panel, the final piece of the puzzle is public policy. And we will need a robust public policy framework to capitalize on all these investments. And with their support, their guidance, these innovators, energy producers, investors, and the skilled labor can work together to make this happen. So introducing our next, our panel is first up, Senator Jay Costa. Those of you from the region know he is a living legend. He is a remarkable leader that does so much for our state and for our region. He is from Western Pennsylvania, and he's doggedly focused on investing in our region's future, including our schools, our housing stock, nonprofit and social sector. And he has been an unwavering supporter for the business community. So thank you for joining us today. In addition, we also have Rich Fitzgerald, the former Allegheny County Chief Executive, and now he is the Executive Director of the Southwest Planning Commission, which is an organization that is focused on transportation and infrastructure planning and development. And for those of you in the region who witnessed Rich as a county executive, you'll know exactly why he's up on stage here today. And finally, our last panelist is Senator Devlin Robinson, who was first elected in 2020 to the Pennsylvania State Senate. He's an Allegheny County native and has been focusing his time in the Pennsylvania Senate on making the Commonwealth more competitive for business investment. He's a staunch supporter of small businesses, and he's focused a great deal of his time on enhancing manufacturing and workforce opportunities in the region. And on this somber anniversary of September 11th, I'd like to also acknowledge he is a veteran who, after the attack on September 11th, 24 years ago, served 1 combat tour in Afghanistan and 2 in Iraq. So thank you for your service, and thank you for being here today. So the first thing that we're going to start out with is just simply, why are you here? At Buchanan, we are here because we see tremendous opportunity. We are working with people in industry, we are working with people in government to really capitalize on this opportunity. But I want to ask, starting with Senator Costa, why did you accept this invitation to be on this panel today? Why did you dedicate a whole day and maybe even parts of tomorrow for this AI Horizons?
Well, Randy, thank you very much to you for leading this discussion, and also Buchanan's investment in time and effort here, as well as the AI Horizon folks for putting this seminar together, this summit together, how critically important it is, and to those guys that made it work, Greg and Todd and Joanna, my hat's off to them to be able to have these conversations. Let me start there. I think you already identified why it's important for us to have this discussion and why I'm here as a policymaker in Harrisburg, working in terms of determining what role we can play to help facilitate the investments and the improvements that are going to be made as we go forward. You talked about the workforce. It's extremely important how poised we are with the tremendous workforce we have, shaping that workforce with our universities and investing in our universities and colleges to be able to do more. Our labor folks and our training centers that will exist along those lines, that'll be a big part of that discussion as well. And the resources that we have, not only intellectual resources, but the resources that we have here in Western PA to be able to utilize them and find ways to make certain that those policies that we implement in Harrisburg do not preclude activity from happening and investments being made, so we can grow this economy. So it's all those reasons why I wanted to be here, to be part of the discussion and conversation about how we make all that work together.
Thank you. And I should note that Senator Costa is an advisor to the AI Strike team who put on this conference today. Rich is a board member of the AI Strike team. Rich, why are you here today?
Well, for a couple of reasons. In my previous job for 12 years, focused on keeping our young people, having the economy grow as the Pittsburgh region's economy transitioned from what we were as heavy industrial into the eds, meds, robotics, life sciences, AI infrastructure. Now in my new role as Tenton County Planning Director, Economic Development Director, what we want to make sure is we focus on is this next boom in the economy, which is coming, and it's going to happen somewhere, and we want it to happen here. And I think if we all work together in a positive way, we can see benefits to keeping our young people and having an economic growth strategy that can benefit both the city and the strong urban area, and also our rural and suburban friends out in the outlying areas. And it's a perfect synergy of where we can be if we do it right. And having partners like the 2 panelists here from leaders in the legislature can make that happen. So I'm glad to be part of the partnership in making this work.
Okay. So neither of you have said you're here because you're experts in AI.
Not at all.
So let's turn it to Senator Robinson. Maybe
He's the expert.
Maybe he'll be the expert on the panel.
I am very far from being an expert on AI. The reason that I'm here, we're at the precipice of the next big thing, as Executive Fitzgerald had mentioned. It reminds me of a breakfast I had with General Michael Hayden, who is actually a graduate of Duquesne University.
Go Dukes.
He was a general in the Air Force, and then director of CIA and NSA for the United States, obviously. But one thing that always stuck with me is he talked about the future of the United States defense, and he talked a lot about China and the United States. And one thing that really stuck with me is that he was talking about the United States and China are not at the same economic periods in their history. We hit the Industrial Revolution much sooner. China was trying to catch up.
And by the time that they hit their industrial revolution, we were already in the post-industrial revolution. And so now he started saying that we're in the chapter of human history where it would be the post-industrial revolution with the internet and computers. And China is coming up behind us. And so this is, post-industrial revolution for AI. And China, though, is not behind us. They're right there neck and neck with us. So that's where I'm here to make sure that we as a state are able to cultivate and grow this industry and make sure that we're able to make it what it truly can be.
So at the beginning, I touched on a couple of the key strategic advantages that we have as a region. I just kind of want to go through them one by one, and I'll ask each of you to cover a different topic that I think you're well suited to. So I will start with you, Senator Robinson. I touched on our skilled labor force. You're the chairman of the Senate Labor and Industry Committee. I see our good friend Kenny Broadbent from the Steam Fitters in the back here. Can you talk a little bit about that advantage that we have in our ability to build things and build things right, and specifically, your role as the chairman of that committee on jurisdiction, what we can be doing to help facilitate that?
Absolutely. It's no secret. You talked about where we are as a region with the water, with the natural gas, with the power, with the infrastructure, the roads and bridges, the railroads that are able to get these products out to market. But the number one thing that we really have is human capital. And our skilled workforce in the labor unions that have been a part of Pittsburgh and the region for over a century. These are going to be billion-dollar facilities, and they're going to go up quick, and they're going to need to be operational. So where are you going to invest that capital of who is going to build these billion-dollar facilities? And that is what we have to offer. We have the workforce ready to go, ready to build out those intricate plans that will carry us through to the next generation, to operation. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's great, because many at this conference are thinking about where to invest, where to build their next generation facilities. And I've been a part of different exercises in courting that investment to the region. And we've been to the Shell Cracker facility. Rich, the international airport is a very important thing to you. And when people leave those facilities, they cannot believe what we're able to build in this region. So that is critically important. I'd like to turn to Senator Costa. I touched on higher education and the role that these institutions play in our ecosystem here. Senator Costa is a very busy guy, but in his spare time, he serves on the boards of the University of Pittsburgh and Duquesne University. He's also a trustee at Community College of Allegheny County. Those institutions are very near and dear to your heart, so I'd like for you to talk a little bit about our higher education and the role that it plays.
Well, each of these institutions and many more are really critical to the ecosystem that we have here with respect to how we're going to develop and as we move forward. Each of them play a role in terms of how we're going to craft our role here in Western Pennsylvania and what it's going to mean. It goes beyond just those couple of institutions, though. When you think about some of the other places where the workforce is taking place, the partnerships that we have along those lines. So we have, was mentioned by Senator Robinson, we have the human capital to be able to do the work, the workforce capital. We have the intellectual capital coming from the institutions, and we have the resources. It's the three of those things that, to me, are the major assets together. But we won't be able to be successful if we didn't have any one of those three, and that's the important thing we have to remember. But I think as we think about what it means to companies that want to open up here, people want to come here, they see that, and they see the high quality of the intellectual capital we have here. We become a major selling point along those lines. So our institutions play a significant role along those lines. And it's more than just operating the data centers or the AI that take place. It is the workforce that builds not only, but also maintains these facilities once they're already built and operational. And when you think about the nature of the infrastructure will be part of all that. It's important to have skilled workers who understand what needs to be done as we go forward. So it's a combination of those universities and colleges, but also organizations that put out people into partnerships with the workforce training centers and the things of that nature. They're all a major part, but we need each one of them to be working together.
That's great. And Rich, you used to be the county executive. You ran, I think it's the second largest county in Pennsylvania for 12 years and was a county councilman before that, but now serving as the chief advocate for the 10 county regions infrastructure, working with all the county commissioners. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the role of our infrastructure, our strategic assets, and why this region stands ready to compete.
Well, and both gentlemen also hit upon some of this. The fact is, once you get outside of the urban core, you've got really developable land that is needed for some of these data centers, which really is the infrastructure and the building block in which the things that flow down from that will occur. Obviously, the natural gas, coal and nuclear. The three things that almost universally everybody says you need to provide the immense amount of electrical power that the AI industry will need with these data centers. And we've got, again, available land and the infrastructure of the grid that was built, again, years ago for heavy industry that can, in many ways, still be utilized for the electrical needs of today. And the amount of water that is needed is, again, for the cooling that's needed by the tremendous amount of heat that is generated by these data centers. We have all of that. And as both of these individuals have said, Senator Robinson and Senator Costa, these great workers that we have, and we have built some of the biggest, most productive things in the country. The cracker plant you mentioned in Beaver County, it was the largest project in North America when it was being built. Our workers built it. It did a great job. We're seeing it now at the International Airport, which is going to be world class when it opens up next month. We've built obviously stadiums and convention centers and other big buildings along the way. So our workforce, which has a work ethic second to none, but also a skill set second to none, and the training facilities that we have for local 449 to steam fitters up in Butler County, the IBEW over on the south side, just to mention a few, but it's world class. So when people invest here, they know they're going to get a world class product being built.
So we've talked a lot about the positive attributes that this region has, the positive attributes of the AI industry growing in this region, but we know that it's not going to be easy. We know it's not going to come without its challenges. I'd like for each of you just to touch on what you think is a unique challenge or the most significant challenge that we face, and briefly touch on what you think might be the solution. And I'll start with you, Senator Robinson.
Sure. I think, the one thing that we really need to get our hands around is the energy policy of Pennsylvania. These data centers are going to go up around the state, and let's face it, Pennsylvania is a corporation, and we have to sell our product. And our product in that package that we're selling will need to be, how are we going to be able to power these facilities? And we're going to say, we have the largest or the second largest natural gas formation in the world. So until we're able to come out with a policy that is safe and beneficial to the industry, that is going to be our biggest challenge moving forward. So, and as Executive Fitzgerald mentioned, it's natural gas, coal, fossil fuels are not just the only fuel source in that conversation. We have a very robust nuclear industry, and renewable energy is coming online as well. So how we're going to fit that in to make sure that we can power these facilities is going to be one of the biggest issues we're going to face.
Senator Costa.
Yeah, I think some of these assets that we have also are part of the challenges that we have to address. Senator Robinson talked about production of energy. we have to figure out the right balance in terms of how that takes place. So I do think that what the thing we're concerned about is that we simply don't have enough energy production right now, but more importantly, the cost of energy, and the question becomes who's going to pay for that increased cost as it relates to the generation of energy. So that's a discussion we have to have in that space with respect to generation and how we find that right balance. The other part is the utilization of the water resources that the county executive talked about. How, again, we utilize that and put parameters around that to make certain that we're able to strike that balance as it relates to the environmental concerns that are there. As also, related to the utilization of natural gas, the fossil fuel impact that's going to have on our environment. Those are all the things that, as we move forward in developing policy, need to be part of that conversation, how we find and strike that right balance. And I think that's, so while these are our major assets, there, so where our major challenges are taking place, and we need to be thoughtful in terms of how that happens. And as a Commonwealth, we need to be thoughtful with our policies to ensure that we don't put anything that's going to be a roadblock or a barrier to allowing this development of this system to take place.
Rich?
I think the senator mentioned, making roadblocks not be part of what's there, because obviously we're competing with other states and other places around the country, and when companies decide where they're going to build or where they're going to invest, they're going to make comparisons around cost, comparisons around speed, comparisons around all the things that, the assets that are there. So we've got to make sure that, the timeline that takes place to move forward is important. I also mentioned, who's going to pay for the improvements to the infrastructure, and we've got to figure out the best way when you're talking about behind the grid, after the grid, who's going to pay for those enhancements. We want to make sure that the ratepayers, that the average person doesn't get burdened with that as well. But I think there's ways to make sure that all happens. But again, it's really maximizing the assets that we have, both natural assets and the intellectual assets that, again, being in the heart where CMU is, the leading AI university in the country, having that asset right here also, and how we bring that all together is really going to be a challenge.
Okay. We're going to switch gears for a second here. We're going to do a lightning round. We're going to start with Senator Costa, go to you, Rich, and then Senator Robinson. And I'm going to ask that we keep our responses short so we can get through these. First question. Do you use AI? And if so, what platform do you use? And if you don't, are you scared of it?
I'm not scared of it. I'm curious about it in terms of how we can continue to build upon it. I do know that we have been utilizing AI in the development of, on the campaign side of work that we do, and to a lesser degree on the state side. So we do use it. I don't personally use it. I'm not sophisticated enough to be there, but I know the folks that I work with are certainly aware of what the capabilities are in using them as well.
I agree with the senator. I'm a little bit nervous, but I've started to use it in writing some of the responses. So chat has helped me do that, but I still am a little bit leery, and it's going to write the way I want it to sound like what I would like it to write.
Well, and as any moderator, you try to staff your panelists. So I sent them all documents beforehand, and I asked Rich about 15 minutes beforehand, did you look at it? And he said, nope. So I know that he didn't use AI to help prepare for this session. But Senator Robinson.
Senator Costa, did you just say that you used AI to run a campaign against me?
Yeah, look how successful it was.
Is that what I heard? Yes.
Spent $3 million and didn't get anything.
We'll have to tweak that algorithm.
But yeah, I just started using ChatGPT. I kind of like to play around with it a little bit, see what it can do. And some of the things, it was really weird on, I wanted to make a Christmas card. And I was like, draw me a picture of Santa Claus as a Marine on Guadalcanal in World War II. And if anybody wants to see it, it came up like that. And Santa Claus is out there, carrying a bar, a BAR, and in the trenches of Guadalcanal. And it's just, it came up in a matter of seconds. So it's kind of stuff like that. So anybody in here that got my Christmas card that year, That was it. So ChatGPT came up with it. But, it's also like the executive said, sometimes you come up with responses, you don't know the exact words, and you just want to come up, it gives you a good baseline. And I did not use it for the speech, by the way. But I do use it, yes.
I guess I don't know whether I'm using it or not, but I find fascinating. If I have a question, and it could be a very detailed question about anything you can think of, I just Google it, the question, and instantaneously you get an answer. No, if that's AI, then I do use it. I'm amazed by it as well. And it's incredibly how quick it is. And the detailed nature of the answers is remarkable.
Well, there are a lot of experts in AI at this conference. There are a lot of exhibitors out there. So I'd suggest maybe you spend a little time circulating. All right, next question. Let's get through this one quickly. Responsible AI. What does that mean to each of you? We'll start with Senator Robinson.
Oh, sure. Responsible AI, we talk about how we had to win the internet age. And once we had all this information, at our fingertips, society would be better. And, it is better. But at the end of it, there's still a very clear and present danger of what this brought us. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And AI is going to make that a lot easier for bad actors, domestic and international bad actors, enemies of our country and enemies of business or anything else. It's going to make it very much more easier to put out misinformation to the point where you won't even be able to respond to it by the time they can put out some other piece of misinformation. So that's the type of stuff we have to be looking for.
The ability to hack into things and do things maybe on its own, reaching into somebody's, say, banking system or whatever it might be along those lines. Anything that would be destructive, I think, is something we all have to be guarded about, with things that we don't want it to do, if you will, or relying on it too much to take care of things that maybe it's doing things that you didn't want it to do.
And I agree with both the gentlemen. I think it's scary what can be done. As I indicated earlier, the quickness of responses, the quickness to Senator Robinson's point, how information could be misinformation being put out there, and it's difficult to bring it back along those lines. That's the scary part. So I know my colleague, Senator Wayne Fontana, is here, and I know he talked a lot about some of that thing in the article he did about the next Renaissance. And I think what's important there is that we take these guardrails into place in terms of how we fashion them and what we do in the regulatory process. That's going to be a question as we go forward as well.
And those of us that follow the legislature and the activity, we have noticed that there are a lot of bills that have been surfacing about regulation of AI or different aspects of the industry. So this is going to be something that you guys are going to be talking about extensively. Next question, we'll start with you, Rich, then Senator Acosta. Do you think AI will eliminate jobs, or do you think it's going to create jobs, or something in between?
I think probably both. I think anytime you've seen automation and new industries, new technologies come about, whether the Industrial Revolution, certainly it is, you can do more things with less individual people, but it also creates new industries that will be coming about and new opportunities. So I think as a whole, it probably will create more jobs, but either way, it's not anything that can be stopped. It's not anything that we could say, well, I disagree with it, so let's stop it, because it's happening. So we need to embrace it, and we need to make sure we can capitalize on it and use it to the best of our opportunity for here in this region.
Yeah, I think to Rich's point, I do believe that at the end of the day, more broadly across the region and across the country, it's going to eliminate positions as we go forward. But we as a region here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County and in Southwest PA have the opportunity, it's the ancillary things that will take place that we can participate and be a part of, the growth of the industry, the building of the data centers, and the building of the electric generation, all those type of positions that will come online and maintaining them. And the more that we do, the net effect for our region will be growing jobs, not necessarily losing them. But I think overall and broadly, it will probably end up replacing positions. But to Rich's point, any new type of industry like that, those are some of the consequences we have to deal with.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be both. Anytime that there's technological advancements, there are going to be layoffs, but it's going to open up a lot more industry. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Did you guys hear me at the beginning say to keep our answers brief? I thought I said, maybe my microphone wasn't working.
That's why I didn't keep going.
So we're going to jump ahead, but before I do, I just want to ask one question of our two senators. Sorry for leaving you out, Rich, but you made it out of this world. So here's your ultimatum question. Would you rather let AI negotiate the current budget, which many of you in the room know is just dragging along, or would you let AI run your entire content for your re-election campaigns if you had to accept whatever came out of the system verbatim? Solve the budget or run your election campaign?
I mean, that's a tough question, Randy. Because again, not knowing and not necessarily maybe trusting what comes out of it verbatim would be the concern. But I think I would probably want it to be the campaign side, the political side, and the budget's an important thing that sometimes not going to be able to, because you got to take in the issues that are taking place. You got to take in the personalities of the people involved. There's political repercussions about what's being done. There's too many other things in the budget that I think leaving it to AI would not necessarily be appropriate. So if I had the choice only between those two, I would do the political stuff and just hope that it's truthful and not misinformation.
Well, I have to look up what AI thinks of me first before I let it run my campaign. It could be like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy.
All right, moving on. Senator Costa, building our energy infrastructure is critically important. Historically, in Pennsylvania, industry has been frustrated at the time it takes to get permitting and get projects approved so that they can put shovels in the ground and advance their investment. What are your thoughts on how the state government can do better, be faster, as it relates to permitting and approving these projects?
I think
because
there's no question.
Otherwise, we're faced with competition from around the country that might be faster than us.
I think, as we know, just not at the state level, but I think at the local level as well, permitting is a major problem, and the access to getting permitting done in a timely fashion is critically important, because businesses and entities are making decisions and they can't wait 6, 8, 9 months for that permit to move forward, or the consistency of permits. And as they begin to stack up on somebody's desk in Harrisburg, we can't have that. I will tell you that Governor Shapiro has done a tremendous job in eliminating certainly the backlog with respect to permitting. The efficiency through the executive order that he put into place, I think last April, has really changed the dynamic with respect to permitting in Pennsylvania. And I think there's more we need to do. But we also need to be thoughtful in terms of the workforce that is required to examine these permitting issues, because sometimes we disseminate the number of employees in these departments, whether it be DEP or labor and industry or wherever it might be. It makes it difficult to move them forward. But the governor's policy is now in place. I think it made a major change, and that's going to be critically important, because you need to be quick and you need to make these decisions quickly. And if you don't, either be deemed approved, or you get your money back, as the governor has been talking about, which is not a great solution because you've just wasted time more than getting your check back. But I do think that we have to do a much better job of permitting in our region, in our Commonwealth, and in our local municipalities as well.
Senator Robinson, you have talked publicly about this opportunity that we have with AI and the investment that can come to the region to build it out. Can you talk a little bit about what you think the state government should do to help this investment come to be?
Sure. I think one, like I said before, is to finally settle the energy question of Pennsylvania. We have Reggie looming over the Supreme Court. We need to make sure that that is settled so that we know what platform we're even negotiating from. Are we going to tax carbon production? That's going to, right now, whenever corporations are coming in and trying to decide, should we go to Ohio? Should we go to West Virginia? Should we go to Pennsylvania? Ohio and West Virginia there's not even a question that they're going to tax extra carbon production. So where are we in that respect? We have to get this settled. We have to get it settled now so that we know what we can offer those corporations.
Executive Fitzgerald, I know that you attended Senator McCormick's Energy and AI Summit in July of this year. Lots of buzz, lots of media attention that was placed on Pittsburgh. But as a representative of the other 9 counties that are around Pittsburgh, what are you hearing from the county commissioners that you work most closely with about this opportunity and what role they'd like to play and what they bring to the table?
Well, they're very excited about the opportunities that come about, and I can talk about 3 projects that are multi-billion-dollar projects in this region. A lot of people have known about Homer City. It's been out there for a couple of months in Indiana County, potentially a $10 billion project. Then the announcement that was made at the McCormick Summit at CMU that in Beaver County, Shippingport, Bruce Mansfield, another about a $10 billion investment around a data center. And just recently down in Greene County at the Rabina site, again, upwards of $10 billion. You're talking about 3 major projects. And I can remember just about a decade ago when the Beaver County cracker plant came about, and we were excited about 6 or 7 billion. Turned out to be more than that. But it really was the impetus of us having the gas and doing it right to make sure that we build out a project that made sense. We're watching that now with Pittsburgh International Airport. The gas actually saved the airport from going into receivership, and we're about to open up a world-class airport in another month that was provided because we did it right. Because we got people that were responsible that came in and made sure that there were processes in place. We had the workers that were able to do it. And again, when you talk to the county commissioners in and around the 9 counties outside, they are very excited and really ready to roll out the red carpet to welcome companies in to make sure it's easy for them to be productive.
That's great. So one thing that we talked about earlier that I just want to go back to is the insatiable appetite for energy that this industry will have if it grows to be what it is that we hope it will be. As public officials, starting with you, Senator Robinson, what do you say to the residents and the homeowners about their electricity bills as we all sit here today to promote this industry and this growth? How do we responsibly grow all the while maintaining, the integrity of our grid and the cost to consumers?
The reality of the situation is you as residential homeowners are going to be competing for that energy with the data centers, AI, all the other manufacturing centers in the area. So if you're going to be competing for it, the price is then going to go up. It's a simple supply and demand issue. So the only way to keep those prices down is to open up the gas fields. Make sure that that the nuclear power plants are online. Make sure that we're cultivating the renewable energy so that we have a full grid that is able to sustain all of the energy needs of the Commonwealth and especially the region where these data centers are going to go up.
Senator Costa, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I think it's got to be this all of the above approach that Senator Robinson talked about as we go forward to be able to meet the demands of what the AI and cryptocurrency and the data centers are going to require us to do. But we got to be mindful that, again, the costs cannot be solely borne by the ratepayers. We have to have some balance and some guardrails in place to be able to ensure that that's not the case. And I think that's what I would say to folks. We need to be moving forward in developing the electric generation that needs to be done, and we're well poised to do it, as we talked about, with the facilities that we can build and the space we have to do it. But it's got to be an appropriate, balanced approach going forward, that it can't be borne just by by ratepayers. We know that this year we're dealing with a 20% increase, and I know that there's a sign up there, Randy, I think we better pay attention to. 20% increase in costs. I'm grateful for the governor, the steps he took that really allowed us to eliminate about $1.6 billion in costs to Commonwealth residents when he sued the PJM folks. But some of the solution needs to be there as well. But we have to be mindful of not only the fiscal impact on ratepayers, but also on the environmental impact it can have going forward as well. And that's why it's got that appropriate balance.
Since we've been given our 5-minute warning, we'll jump ahead to our last question that I'd like to ask each of the panelists. There is a lot of representatives of different companies who are considering investing in this region. And I'd like for each of you to take 60 seconds and give your elevator speech on why they should choose Pittsburgh, why they should choose to live here, work here, invest here, and hire from here. Rich, I'll start with you.
Well, the one thing this region has always been good at is solving problems and reaching challenges. And you go back to the days of World War II, and how are we going to produce all this steel that was needed? Our region came through and made that happen. Then the polio vaccine, the transplantation, R&D that we were able to do to meet the needs of the world. And now we have an opportunity right now to do the same thing. The jobs and the opportunities in this region have never been better than they are right now. If you get the skills and you get the talents, we got to make sure we give people, our young people, the skills and the opportunity. And we should be the leader in this next generation, this next revolution of industry in AI and what it is. And I know we can do it. This is a great place to live, great quality of life, great everything, great football team. I see Mr. Rooney here. AI will be calling those plays next week, probably to win that game. We'll be all set.
We'll go to Senator Robinson next.
No, just like what we've been talking about all day, we really have an entire ecosystem that is ready to help this industry grow. It starts with the workforce. It starts with the natural resources. We have the students that are coming through the world-class institutions like Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, Robert Morris, Duquesne. I mean, don't forget Point Park and Chatham University and Carlow. I mean, we have so much to offer the region, the country, and the world. And we're ready to go. We have a good legislature too that works together to get things done. That's going to be able to advance
All
this.
but one thing. So I would say, echo what both Rich and Devlin mentioned about the quality of the workforce. If you're looking at a workforce, the diversity of the workforce that we have here. But I want to go back to the first part of your question, Randy. You said live, work, and play. Live here. We have a great quality of life here in our region. And I know we talk a lot about the workforce, how important that is, but the workforce has to be happy, and they want to be able to move to a place and be a part of a place that they feel welcome, and they feel like they can do things and be a part of things. We have a great arts and culture community. We have a great educational system in many of our communities across this region, and the other amenities we have with respect to world-class, whether it be the opera, ballet, symphony, whatever the case might be, the theaters that we have here. There's so many wonderful things. Our park system that Rich has been a big part of over the years, our athletic programs that he mentioned, those are all part of the quality of life that I think are important as well. So being able to have great quality of life. So if I'm on the elevator, it's our quality of life and the things we have, the amenities we have here. It's our workforce, it's our universities, and it's a diversity, and it's a vibrant city and a vibrant region. That's what my pitch would be.
Did they win your investment? Good, good. That's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you all for joining us. I especially want to thank Senate Minority Leader Jay Costa, Executive Rich Fitzgerald, and Senator Devlin Robinson for sharing their insights today. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks for coming.